and it becomes surprising if they don't prioritize the Johnny here after them banning the other two big Ardent Sensor supports.
Not surprising at all to see that locked in first and foremost. When you take out the Ardent Sensor users and there's only one left, the team who has it is going to have a serious edge coming up for the rest of the draft.
I think this is fine as well when you look at champions like Jarvan that are still left up and available, especially when Janna can be that excellent reset. If he tries to dive in onto your backline, you have the ultimate disengage and you have plenty of peel on that kind of defensive support.
All right, well, Flash Wolves locking in the Jarvan. It means they've got one more pick to go here in the first round. And it's going to be Tristana going over their way. Very strong bottom laner. We've seen plenty of this leading up into Worlds. Now we're going to get to see it here in the hands of Benny.
And you better pick that Tristana after banning the other 3 high-tier 80 carries, although it does leave up Twitch if Mystic wants to go for that, but then the question will be whether or not that laning phase is too passive and gets steamrolled.
All right, Team WE, now that they've got that Janna locked in, they were able to play their support game plan appropriately. Let's see how the rest of the comp is built around these guys. You've got the Galio, so plenty of protection so far from these first couple of picks.
We saw what RNG did yesterday with the Jarvan Galio combo. They won't be able to get the full setup of it, but with Sejuani still up and available, you're already looking at what could be an extremely strong engage with a very reliable follow-up in the form of the Galio.
Yeah, and a lot of these picks are denial picks. You're blocking the Jarvan Galio, you're blocking the Tristana lane, and I feel like here, if WE doesn't lock in their 80 carry, they just get 2 more bans towards that role to nerf Mystic, so to speak, who has been such a big part of their game plan all throughout Worlds.
And that's why you're going to see him locking in that Twitch that we mentioned just a couple of moments ago. That one's going to be in the hands of Mystic this time around. Of course, you'll have Galio's Hero's Entrance to protect him, along with the Janna and everything else. And there's that Terra cover. We were also mentioning that just a couple of moments ago. We've seen some big performances out of this champion. We saw during play-in stage, even during the main group stage, and Flash Wolves pick it up.
Yeah, not too hard to connect the dots here, just off of the ban phase, making sure that you're picking the role so it can't get starved further. I think that's why we see the Twitch and the Terra pick.
We're now looking at things like the top and mid lane priority coming out from both these teams. Now, if you're the Flash Wolves, you do have the ability to flex the Jarvan to both top and in the jungle, so there's that element of surprise that they could still bring out. Remember that champions like the Sejuani still available, Gragas up and available too. And as I say that, Flash Wolves immediately go for it.
You jinxed it, Vedius. Sejuani, the first ban of the second part of the bans here in this game. Let's see how Team WE wants to respond to that one. Do they want to focus similar big frontliners? Nope, they want to take Orianna out.
Yeah, I think it's a little interesting that they're focusing mid lane bans rather than top lane bans, since very often the very first pick by red side after the second ban phase is that Cho'Gath or that Maokai. However, this is the team in Flash Wolves that did play up against the Trundle, and I wonder if they're going to be scared off of that early Cho'Gath pick, assuming the Team WE continues to ban mid laners.
Yeah, they had a scary game against Misfits. Like they mentioned it on the desk, they didn't get a kill. That's something that doesn't just get washed out of your mind very easily, not something that you're going to quickly forget. So they've got to be ready to adapt to those kinds of situations here, especially with this being the last game for this team here in Week 1. If you lose this, you go 0-3 into Week 2, and that is a hard hand to be dealt.
The logic here from Team WE could be that by banning away mid laners, they could be trying to force Flash Wolves into an early mid lane pick so that they can then try and get themselves the counter. Or they're basically saying, look, we're expecting you to first pick your top laner. We can then pick up what we think is the strongest mid laner left, and then you're running out of options.
Well, if you want to talk about strong mid laners at Worlds, we've been seeing this guy get a lot of attention so far. Rise, the hover from Flash Wolves right now, but now they're switching back over to the Shen, and it looks like that will be the lock-in.
Fascinating. So they only have the one jungle ban. They decide to still wait for the counter pick in the mid lane because they obviously don't know exactly where that Galio is going to be going. Going to see the solo laner lock in as well as the jungle here for Team WE.
Rumble there in the solo lane, so plenty of AP damage will be coming out of him.
Yeah, and this is very close to the quintessential Galio composition where you have the Jarvan lock everyone in for the Galio ult and the Rumble ult, but they don't have the Jarvan to keep him in there, so this is a much more unreliable version of that combo.
But they will still have the Gragas available. Another good jungler that we've seen quite a lot out of from different teams, and WE will have it this time around.
A lot of reliance now is going to be on Condi to be the big initiator for a lot of these late game fights, because their mid game spike is decent with Rumble, but really they are going towards that mid to late game. What we got to remember is that the thing about Rumble is he often struggles against tanks in the late games. When you think about Cho'Gath, Maokai, his damage output is little to none, especially with the recent buffs that we had to Adaptive Helm. But unfortunately against Flash Wolves, they don't actually have that many super tanks. The Flash Wolves, they're going to be a little bit creative with their mid lane option.
I love Vladimir Taric as a combo. You just ghost in, and there's nothing that guy can do about it, especially at Twitch. You can even pool to lower the chance of a Janna disengage as you're flying in there with Ghost. So I've seen this combo work a lot. It's just oftentimes you can't get the Vladimir through the early laning phase. Enter Galio, you probably can. So I think that's one of the things that Flash Wolves is doing, hovering that rise and saying, wait a minute, if we get that Galio mid, we got something special.
And remember, Maple, that's who the desk was talking about, the guy that even in the first couple Flash Wolves games that they lost, he was the one who looked like he was trying to carry everyone else on his back, that he was the one who might have had some glimmer of hope at finding wins there. If there's a guy you're expecting to come in the clutch and make this a win for this team, it's going to be him.
I'm really excited to see what Maple can do on the Vladimir. I've seen a fair amount of Vladimir in Europe, played by a certain mid laner, but it's going to be exciting to see what it can be do in the capable hands of Maple, who is a bit of a legend on the international stage.
Yeah, and has not played Vladimir at all in the summer split, so definitely trying to bring out something a little bit new.
Well, they'll definitely have their work cut out for them, as they do have to take down Team WE to get there. WE currently sitting at 1-1. Flash Wolves at 0-2. Flash Wolves wins here. These two are going to be tied up in the standings. WE wins here. Flash Wolves drop to that 0-3 that nobody really wants to find themselves in. We touched on it just a moment ago, but now we're loading into Summer's Rift for the first time today. The final day of group stage battle here for week 1. Let's see which one of these two can do it.
Definitely have to focus down in that bottom lane with Mystic and Ben. The Relic Shield Twitch start. You wonder if that is going to get bullied a little bit by the Tristana with Thorin's Blade. That's what Betty and Sword Art are trying to do to that bottom lane. Not wanting Twitch to come online, so to speak, with the most likely Hurricane and Ardent Sensor power spikes.
I mean, Twitch is one of these AD carries that can really hyper carry a game, right? We've seen the damage output from this champion from other players like Bang and like Reckless. This is a guy who can decimate entire enemy lines, and when you've got an AD carry like Mystic, a guy you can rely on to be that big carry, WE's comfortable and confident putting him on that.
And in order to set Mystic up for success, my eyes are going to be on players like Condi and Jie. We did see in Condi's very first game of the group stages going up against Misfits. He was a big part of what enabled Mystic and Ben to get that big advantage down in the 2 versus 2, sending a lot of pressure there. But that was combined with the roams from Jie as well. And what better champion to find those roams on than a level 6 Galio that can quite happily look to try and dive you under your turret.
Well, the big worry for WE in this team composition is, where does the reliability come from? It's just Condi's flash engage, maybe Xie's flash engage, but he's mostly just going to be a delivery system off of Gragas' body slam. It is hard for them to force fights, and can they force fast enough to not get it turned around on them by a Taric ultimate?
WE will walk their solo laners into the enemy jungle, steal away those small raptors with their combined AoE very quickly, actually. So they're not going to leave a lot of that extra experience there for Carson.
I really like that play, actually. It messes up Carson's jungle a little bit and leaves the big one up. So that's a lot of experience they leave on the table, but doesn't hurt them that much in the grand scheme of things. And those are two champions that are incredibly good at that. Rumble and Galio, just one spell each, they clear the whole camp.
It's going to force Carson with a slightly different early jungle path as well. You can see he's being forced now to clear his entire bottom side. He'll be able to get level 3 off of this, but then it will allow WE that information that, okay, Jarvan's probably going to be on the top, and that gives a little bit more freedom for Mystic and Ben to play as they like during the laning phase.
Well, I guess if you're trying to look on the bright side of life, Carson's at least going to take a little bit less of a punishment from this camp as he normally would.
It's normally a really hard camp for Jarvan to clear, and now they made it the single target camp for him. So
not that difficult.
I like the idea for the solo laners, but against Jarvan, you did him a little bit of a favor.
Yeah, I mean, still like to have the extra gold, you'd like to have the experience, but again, you've got to find some sort of silver lining on the dark cloud of your camps being stolen away, and that'll be that for him as GA pushes up here in the mid lane. Carson grabs his red buff. I'll have to see what exactly he decides to do with that one. Just takes his blast cone over, starts up the Krugs.
Yeah, he'll be doing a full clear. Most likely recalling after that based on where his health pool will be after the Krugs. Not bad, actually. The more I think about it, I think Carson's pretty happy about not having to clear the small raptors. That camp is a pain for Jarvan. He still hits level 4 on his first clear, which he would have done regardless, and just misses out on the 60 gold from the little raptors.
And now that we're looking at the bottom lane, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about these two AD carries matching up against each other, because we already touched on Mystic and his ability to carry games and how he can be this hero for Team WE, but Betty has been doing good work for his team so far as well. You can see the KDA isn't quite as high, but for Betty, it's actually just a DA. It's a death to assist ratio, because he still does not have a kill.
Well, he's looking to try and get that on the Tristana today. You can see that his laning phase is pretty even going up against Mystic, but the damage share is still a big part of where Flash Wolves are doing in these team fights. The problem is Flash Wolves have often struggled to close out games, and that's not Betty's fault. He's just the facilitator of the damage. It's about the rest of the team coming together to properly set Betty up to be that big hyper carry, and what eyes will be on him as he is playing this Tristana as the game progresses.
Everything very even across all the lanes right now. You can see the farm in the top lane there, very slightly favoring 957. Mid lane and AD carries going just blow for blow in terms of their own farm, as teleport used by GA to get back to mid lane after going back, doing a little bit of shopping. Wants to make sure that he does as much as he can to maintain control over this lane early on, while that Vladimir is still building up strength.
And now thinking about how Flash Wolves have played this group stages so far, we've seen relatively slow early games for the most part, apart from when they played up against TSM. And what Flash Wolves are doing a good job of was forcing a lot of plays, putting TSM in situations where they didn't really want to fight. Often it resulted in Svenskeren getting caught out and giving a lot of early kills over to Flash Wolves, which is what gave them that early lead, but then they struggled in the later game team fights. And the one big thing you have to praise Team WE for is their ability to fight, but then they never really got to show that against Misfits yesterday. So two of the things that we often praise these teams for, which is Flash Wolves' early game aggression with Karsa and WE's team fight, they've kind of been lacking so far in this group stage.
Yeah, and you also have to ask yourself where that first big point of conflict is going to be. In a Galio Shen game, you're expecting it to probably be around the bottom side, unless Team WE do decide to target the Shen, which is a very real possibility. It's something MMD is going to have to watch out for.
WE really does not want to allow Karsa to get this chicken camp this game. They'll steal that one away. This time, big one included. Karsa's only taking a couple of babies with him.
This is good jungle control. You know, it's basically saying, you know what, we already want to have a little bit more pressure on the top side of the map, especially with Rumble perma pushing up there, and it gives them a bit of deep vision as well. So Team WE, they're going to feel pretty confident and just give that extra bit of safety to 957.
Karsa throwing down some vision in the enemy jungle, realizing that they're invading him, so it's a good idea to keep tabs on exactly what's going on that other end of the map as well. We often see junglers do this. They get invaded, they just clear their opponent's side as well, but not fall behind. A little bit of a scuffle down here in bottom. Mystic having that charge explode on him. As GA mid lane with that level 6. Now might find himself in a 1 versus 2. Maple taken down below half. Karsa backs off. GA just fine here.
Yeah, two mid laners are going to have a hard time killing each other. I'm expecting a very early Abyssal Mask from the Galio, as it's such a good item on him, and that's just going to stop them from killing each other. And that's good. That's fine for Vladimir. Maple wants to wait until he's at 2 or 3 items to really turn on, and then the question will be, is Mystic at the point there where he can tread through the Vladimir, or can the Taric ultimate Vladimir run through the team? And if a jungler is going to go to make that gank, you have to maybe even send a third person.
I'm also curious as to how Flash Wolves will utilize this Vladimir later on into the game. We see a bit of trading.
Oh, Benny going in very deep one to Mystic. Looking for that last auto attack to find the explosive charge. Mystic going to be, honestly, not that bad off.
Yeah, Flash Wolves win that, though, because they only used one defensive summoner, whereas Team WE used both. Ben has gone with the exhaust instead of the classic heal barrier we're seeing so far. But the sustain war will be a question of how much Betty can heal up here. He's gone Fervor, not Warlord, so that's less sustain in lane. He may have to recall fairly soon.
Meanwhile, Condi, level 6 on the Gragas. Karsa still without his own ultimate. We know both these junglers kind of flip a switch when they hit level 6. It's such powerful ganking tools for both. Hey, that feels so bad. In mid laner, the Gragas just scoots in there, but Condi does a good job delaying that back, make things a little bit less efficient for Maple in terms of his timings.
And I'm curious what Flash Wolves will do later on into the game as well, because just looking at some of the summer spells that we've also got on either side, you already mentioned the exhaust from Ben. I think that makes sense when going up against someone like a Vladimir who's going to be looking to dive onto the back line, and you just want to mitigate that threat onto your primary carry of Mystic. But also, there's no TP on top of Maple compared to the TP of GA. So WE, they have a few more options to play along these side lanes, but when you actually look at the comp of Flash Wolves, they have a pretty strong 1-3-1. Will they try and utilize the Vladimir off on the side lane? Will they try and group him up? They actually have a few options, but it's that extra TP that their Flash Wolves are going to have to respect.
Yeah, it is interesting for Team WE to go with the double teleport summoner choice without actually having the stronger 1-3-1, because oftentimes double teleport and 1-3-1 are synonymous, but you need the dude who can win the 1v1 late game for that to work. And I don't think that's true for the Rumble or the Galio. So it's almost like they're just laning phase summoner spells to keep map pressure up and allow Condi to try and get some invades going on, which we haven't necessarily seen yet, but we have seen them get deep wards, take the Raptors multiple times, so the map pressure is where they're trying to get their edge.
Yep, the early game going pretty slowly so far, but now Carson's going to find Ben as he walks down into the bottom lane. Finds a nice little chunk of burst, but Ben's shield is fast enough to block a bit of it.
Is this where they use the proactive Shen ultimate? They definitely had a little bit of a tell, and they're giving time for them to respawn. The teleports aren't up on Team WE yet, but Galio's moving into range to ult in.
And remember, there is no way for the Rumble to interrupt the Shen ulti. Here we go, Mystic gonna be jumped on, has the explosive charge strapped onto his head, and he is done. First blood over the way of Karsa. Now seeing if they can get anything else. They're only gonna find a death onto Sword Art. The winds of war blow for Team WE, and they make it even.
The level 6 power spikes for both teams, but it's Flash Wolves that are faster on the trigger. They're the ones to set up the dive, but WE respond in kind. GA's able to position in a way to stop Flash Wolves from getting anything extra, and it ends up in a 1-for-1 trade.
And listen, we often criticize Flash Wolves for not making the play. You have to question whether the play was worth it. Sometimes that's why a team doesn't go for it, is because they can't do it perfectly. Yeah, they got first blood, they used every ultimate, they sent all 5 people, and they didn't get a lick of turret damage. Meanwhile, 957 has a larger CS lead in the top lane and got 80% of that turret down, which could probably end up being first turret. Not to mention a kill fell down on the backside. That was absolutely a one trade for Team WE, in my opinion.
You don't always make a play just because you can.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the summary of what happened there for Flash Wolves. Yeah, you got the kill, you got first blood, congratulations. Let's take another look at how it all played out, though.
And you can see here, the Shen is being forced under his tower already. He comes into the fight right from the get-go, but Betty initially takes tower aggro. He's forced out of the fight, and then GA's already there to respond, forcing Sword Art to lose his life. And then WE, they force Flash Wolves back. They're the ones that have to retreat, and it gives Team WE all this pressure in the enemy jungle and all across the map.
And Team WE, remember, Jack just said they got 80% of that first turret. They didn't even kill the thing, but they're up over 1,000 gold just because the team has those farm advantages like you're now seeing in the solo lanes, and because they've just done a better job passively building that economy.
Yeah, exactly. Ben's 600 gold up on Sword Art because the Relic Shield helps, and also the gold runes that he's going to be running. So he's done that every single game they play. Jonnet keeps pace, and also I think is one of the reasons Team WE's early game bot, they've been like, man, Mystic and Ben, they're supposed to smash everyone. Why aren't they? Well, because they're playing these passive lanes that are waiting on power spikes, and currently, even with that death, they're still even in CS.
Here we go, back to the chicken camp yet again, and they get everything. Carson tries to walk in and throw the lance out to steal one, but it does not work. These two, again, staying on top of that spawn, denying that EXP, denying that gold from the Flash Wolves jungler.
Team WE also still have both their teleports up, ready for use. It will be a Cloud Drake that's going to be the first one on the board, which means that neither team likely going to make that a high priority. But if it's a free objective, there's no reason why they can't try and look to make a play, especially when they want to continue the pressure down on the bot side and get Mystic into that carry position.
Betty, 94 CS to the 90 of Mystic. We were keeping track of these guys' farm when we talked about them earlier. Both of them normally farm very well compared to their opponents. They're both doing well enough right now. Initiation coming out from the Flash Wolves, but Condi is here.
Oh.
Ben looking to make the play, shoving Betty back. Betty still managing to get himself away as Condi now finds his own ultimate down onto Sword Art, who has the Cosmic Radiance, but isn't going to use it this time. Mystic grabs the kill.
Yeah, Sword Art was flashless, so he knew he was dead regardless of whether or not he used Cosmic Radiance trying to save it. They might just round this up for another gank. They could still teleport 957 if they really wanted to. That's why that worked there. And a great sweeper by Karsa to block it.
Karsa not allowing that TP to go in. Very well done by these guys, preventing further damage coming through. But now the damage onto the turret is
Rumble,
the
look at
concern.
Rumble.
TP going to be used. Rumble coming down. They've got GA here as well. WE wants to make this push onto this turret. 5 men strong, but now
Maple
it's going to be
ghosted.
4
He's
coming
coming
in from the Flash Wolves. They want to make this one happen. MMD able to find the taunt onto GA underneath the turret. Almost able to grab the kill, but instead it's not going to work out today. Galio into the back line using the hero's escape. And Flash Wolves will hold the line.
Flash was doing a good job of defending this early tower, but I don't know if it's enough.
MMD now forced to flash back.
Really
WE's assault will find success. Condi forces them back as GA goes in, tries to fire off yet another win, but will now be forced back without grabbing a kill. They'll take the turret though, and they'll do so happily.
So many intricacies in that fight that ultimately don't turn bloody, but they still get the first turret, which gives them a large edge. And Flash Wolves committed the resources to trying to stop it without being able to. So that's still a big win for Team WE in that sense. They did move everyone bottom lane, but they're the ones that got something out of it. Flash Wolves did not.
And this is just a staple WE move, utilizing the levels and the comp that they have to apply pressure around the map. They had the double teleport, they have the Galio, they have the Rumble ultimate, they have a team composition that is great at just forcing enemies away from towers and just sieging them down. They knew they had the early advantage, they found that early kill onto Sword Art, and they were not afraid to try and force that play.
And one thing the bottom lane skirmishes have told us, both from the dive that Flash was executed and the attempted dive that Team WE attempted, was a preview of what we're going to see later. It's going to be really hard for Mystic to stay alive, because we know that the Vladimir can come in with a Shen and a Taric and be nearly unstoppable. And we also know it's going to be pretty hard for Team WE to actually execute kills onto the Flash Wolves. They don't have that much engage, and these guys can run away with a lot of different tools. So that just makes it all the more important that Team WE is getting pressure on these turrets and objectives, because they need to make their gold lead overwhelmingly strong to push this game to victory.
We are starting to see item power spikes coming across from multiple people. As WE trying to push further onto yet another tier 1 turret. Good denial there from Ben. Going to be stopping the Flash Wolves' attempted move on them. Now bringing Condi up here to continue this push.
Yeah, and they won the sensor race. They have a Hurricane and an Ardent Sensor, so they're power spiking right now. The Flash Wolves want to fight them.
Flash Wolves going to be using that TP to come in, start this one off. Ben in some danger. Condi looking to body block, trying to get him out of there if he can, but the taunt comes in and Karsa's grabbing the kill. Now seeing if they're maybe able to find some damage onto Mystic, but he's the one dealing all the pain today. A couple more auto attacks might be able to do it, but now Mystic going to be jumped on by the Shen. Condi grabbing the kill onto Karsa. Galio comes in for the cavalry charge as Maple goes into the back line, going after Condi now as well. Evo Plague down, one more transfusion to grab the kill. What a bloodbath.
And how long's the fight gonna happen? 957 started in the bot lane. He's walked up this far.
Maple still defending this. 957 knows there's low health bars that he could mop up. GA and 957 want to take down this turret, potentially grab the kill onto Maple as well. Lots of damage coming out from these two AP solo laners. The winds come through, they don't find the mark. GA's gonna be taken out. He's gotta be careful, but then he got the kill. 957 trying to get something here. He will find Betty. He may find MMD, but the Spirit's Refuge protects.
What a great fight from the Flash Wolves. They finally have the game going their way. You were just talking about this earlier, chat, how it's so difficult for WE to find those kills on the Flash Wolves, but it's just because Flash Wolves, all of them were there on the play beforehand. They were already ready to react to the play from Team WE. They find the successful fight, but they're still in the goal deficit.
Yeah, and I also feel like Team W was a little greedy there, knowing they didn't have their teleports up, and Mystic just thought he could take him on because he had his Hurricane. And he nearly did, but not quite enough thanks to all the defensive tools that Flash Wolves had. Watching this one more time, remember, the Monsoon from Jana is down. That's why Flash Wolves go for it.
And you can see Shen has already positioned because he's ready for the TP flank. You have the Taric ultimate to just buy time, preventing Mystic from doing damage, but then he does a great job of just unloading onto the Flash Wolves. You think at this point, maybe Team WE can turn it around, but he gets too low. He ends up dropping off the back of the fight, and that's only the first half of the fight, chat.
Yeah, Galio, oh so close to taking Sword Art down, and that costs them later on in the fight because they still want to 2v4 this with a full health Vladimir in the game. Yes, the turret's their priority, they get that, but then they think, yeah, we can kill him, and Flash Wolves think they can defend him. Sword Art, critical here, getting the heals and shields in on the multiple people. Betty has his ultimate back up, just keeping his distance from 957 for most of it, and the timing of the Spirit's Refuge right at the end. Keep himself alive from that overheated auto attack.
Well done from the Flash Wolves team fighting properly. They're still down 2,500 gold compared to Team WE, though 17.5 minutes into this game. And I think it is interesting to note that neither team has taken the first Drake. It is a Cloud Drake. It is of lesser value than normal. But you can see right there, Team WE gold differences group stage versus Misfits and versus TSM. They're 2 matches so far.
And this is the make or break moment in their game so far. And that's what we're seeing a lot of in this tournament. When both guys get their Ardent sensors, when both tank lines start to come online, whoever gets that one little bit of a lead cuts through the enemy front line so much faster. Team WE have to play clean here. So much is yet to be decided for both teams.
WE daring Flash Wolves to come stop them from taking this Rift Herald. Flash Wolves wants to see if they can. Maple moving up forward, gonna have that large transfusion here. Marsa actually stealing it away, well done. MMD steps up to secure the Rift Herald drop itself, taunts over the wall and gets himself to safety. Maple now trying to get away further. Emo Plague thrown down onto multiple people, throws out the Tides of Blood as well. Stun comes out from Tarek. The Flash Wolves disengage.
And we talked about the lack of engage from Team WE. That was 5v5 grouped up from Team WE. They were in a prime position to try and force the fight, but they don't go for it. They just wait for Flash Wolves to walk in, take the Rift Herald, walk out, and not lose any members.
Yeah, MMD just walked up to 5 people after ulting it, is be like, well, I guess the team doesn't want to fight. I will turn around now, and I will be absolutely fine, because WE has such lackluster engagement. I think they understand that, which is why they are so heavily forcing around turrets, Rift Herald, Drakes, daring Flash Wolves to fight him. That's the only way WE is going to get a fight, but they still haven't been converting those in a big way.
But they still have double TP available, like the flanking options are there for Team WE, yet they get to try and take advantage of them. Typically what you'd expect is Connie goes in, she follows up, and then you have the ulti from 957 to round things out. But so far, Condi's yet to truly pull the trigger, unless they're in a 3 versus 5, and it's Flash Wolves the ones that are trying to force the fights.
Flash Wolves now, they got the Rift Herald. We'll have to see how they want to actually use that. Team WE currently holding the turret control in this game, 2-0. That's pretty much where their gold lead is coming from at this point. That and the Janna gold that you were talking about earlier, Jat, with just how much more money they're putting into their support so you can get those supportive items coming out for his team. 1,600 gold of that lead is on the Janna compared to the Tarek just because of that investment towards him.
Yeah.
Ardent Sensor up and running, very, very useful for that Twitch, but Mystic's going to need to be positioned very well.
And the remainder of the gold lead is just the fact that Team WE have 2 turrets over Flash Wolves, so I feel like this game is still very close. Both these teams really consistently butting heads, and I do feel like Flash Wolves are the ones that are, more often than not, the ones coming out ahead in the fight.
But remember, if you're a fan of Flash Wolves, their 2016 Worlds run, and a bit of what we saw from them here in 2017 against TSM, they could do well enough early. They could even take it a bit into the mid-game, but it was closing those games that was problematic for the Flash Wolves. So you've always got to be concerned for this team as time goes on. Do they have that coherent element finally there that they can work together as 5 and make these plays happen? Right now, they're looking to pull that off mid lane, pushing up 4 strong, leaving Maple in the side lane to split push. Rift Herald will roar in there, nearly takes the turret down, but nearly's not enough. WE continuing to hold. Betty tries to put that last little bit of damage on it. Condi, now the one who may be in some danger. Galio ulti comes in. MMD gonna be knocked back into the team, but that is a Shen. Pretty tanky, not really the one you want to be focusing on. Maple makes his way into the fray here. Nice equalizer choke point as the Tarek ultimate is forced out. And Flash Wolves have to retreat now. Can WE find anything else? Maple going into the back line instead. Mystic may be in danger here. Ben gonna be taken low. 957 grip the kill onto Karsa as Condi falls to Betty. Now gonna be finding himself in the middle of 4, but jumps over the wall with the flash to escape.
Such a clutch fight between both these teams. Team WE trying so desperately to force a fight, but they take too long. The Flash Wolves sort out ultimate, just mitigating all of the damage from the Rumble ulti, and that's when Maple goes in. He tries to start something for the Flash Wolves, but it actually ends only in a 1-for-1 and a trade for jungle.
Yeah, both summoner spells used by Maple to get in onto Team WE, but when Mystic is just standing there with the Monsoon on him from the Janna and ripping off on the spray and pray, he's healing a lot, and they're not reducing it. So we're going to watch this fight one more time. You can see how difficult it is for Team WE to start a fight, because they want to. They see Vlad top lane, they think they can force a 5v4, but all right, we smacked the Shen into the team, don't really want to engage, and they're they're almost intentionally walking into dangerous places so that Flash Wolves will engage on them, is what it feels like. Karsa's over the wall, thinking about it. The Terror Call missed out, but Maple finds it. And now W right back on the turret game. Now
WE saying, you took down our first turret, we're going to take down your first turret mid lane at least, seeing if they can push this one up. About 20% HP left on that. Team WE trying to build back up some of that objective lead. They will do so successfully. About 3,000 gold in their pockets ahead of Flash Wolves.
And my eyes just keep darting towards Betty. So one of the unsung hero for Flash Wolves, Captain Flowers. We were talking a little bit about him earlier on, how this game was going to be very much about the 280 carries and also how well Maple would have an impact on these fights. But when you look across the scoreline, 3-1-3 for Betty, he's just slowly been stacking up kills. He's working towards his third item. And as this game progresses, I feel like that Tristana is going to be a huge factor in allowing Flash Wolves to win these fights.
I think it needs to be one of the main factors for them to win the game. But even with his damage percentage or his CS, they are sitting at 0-2 in this group, and it's because Betty hasn't been able to make those plays at the ends of the game. In the TSM matchup, it was Betty who got rocket jumped on while out of position, died, and lost the game. In the other game, it was the Jinx game where you just have to get that first kill to get the reset. The reset never came, and they got run over at the end of the game. So it's been a tough road for Betty. He's done a lot of good things, but in order to be the hero, you have to win.
The bright side for Betty, he finally gets his first kill, though. We didn't mention that at the start of the day.
It's a KDA now, boys.
It is now, in fact, a KDA. So good job for Betty. But let's see as we track through this game, because Maple is the other big star that you do have to keep your eyes on. Note, they are moving him off into a side lane much more regularly now, and he doesn't seem to find any trouble getting involved in these fights.
And Jat, you mentioned a little bit earlier about how now that the Ardent sensors are coming online and everything's sort of falling into place, these pieces are landing where they should. One big fight, one big momentum swing can determine the tempo for the rest of the game. And now that you're seeing those second items come online, you've got a Righteous Glory on your Galio, you've got a Zhonya's Hourglass on your Rumble. On the other side, Randuin's Omen completed on the Jarvan, while the Leandri's Torment for the Vlad. These are big purchases, big pickups that could really determine who wins these fights.
Exactly, and so much of it comes down to how safe Mystic can be. He's got these insane damage percentages as far as the tournament is concerned, and he's the one roaming around, actually going for MMD.
MMD already had to use his flash here. Mystic looking to further chase this one down. Equalizer is enough, and Mystic grabs the kill for himself.
Ooh, MMD, he overextends a little bit in the bottom lane. He's not expecting the Mystic roam, and this is the thing you've always got to be careful of when it comes to Twitch. We saw a great example of it from Reckless in their series versus Immortals, and we're seeing it once more. WE now moving Mystic around the map and trying to find these picks.
Here comes another one.
Now that they found the pick, though, what can they do with it? What can they get from it? It's one thing to pick off the enemy side laner, have that extra gold in your pocket, but what do you get afterwards? And for WE, it looks like they're going to be trying to get some vision control around this top side, maybe make a play on the Maple.
Continue to get vision around the objectives with which will be used to force fights in the mid and late game. They have so much anti-engage on this team with the Galio and the Janna. They also just want Flash Wolves to try and dive in on them, and they need to be able to stuff it to keep Mystic alive and win the fights, because the best way to get people in range for spray and pray is to have them come to you, but that's also the fastest way to a loss. So it's going to be these really razor's edge fights on whether or not Mystic stays alive.
And Sword Art's going to be pivotal as well, because his ultimate mitigates so much damage. If you use that spray and pray at the wrong time, a little too early, maybe a little too late, then that Cosmic Radiance is just going to deny all that 80 carry damage, and then that long-range hyper carry turns into a slow-range little rat that has to get past the front line in order to threaten those carries. So a lot of intricate things are going to come out as we progress into these fights later on into the game.
And you can see on your screen right now kind of who are those big power players in the game so far, who's making those big impacts in the team fights. It's Maple on the side of Flash Wolves. Nobody's really surprised about that one. And in similar non-surprising fashion, Mystic's Twitch, like you guys are talking about, if you can find those spray and prays, get those guys in range, that's where the damage is going to be coming from. Expected stars doing what we expected them to do, but so far we've got quite a close contest between these two teams. Still 3,500 gold apart. I've kind of been checking up on this gold lead as we've gone, and it's not shifted that much. Yeah. It's been a slightly WE favored game this entire time around, and it's stagnated there.
And the 80 carries are pretty close in gold as well. Nearly 11,000 on Mystic and 10,500 on Betty. So those are the guys that this game is heavily about.
All right, as we go further and further too, more and more of the game will be about Baron, about who can control it, who can maybe sneak it away. We don't know for sure. Flash Wolves, we saw them get a cheeky Rift Herald steal earlier. as Mystic goes stealthy, finds a really nice hit on the sword art, but won't look for any more.
Just looking across some of the itemization as well. Adaptive Helm, big picket for MMD in that 1 versus 1 against 957, and there is a lot of magic damage coming out from Team WE as well. Also notice the Righteous Glory on top of GA. We talked about lack of engage. Well, having that extra bit of movement speed is definitely going to assist them, but if GA is off on a side lane, always trying to deal with Maple, how reliable is that Righteous Glory going to be in being able to start those fights?
You also got to look at the teamfight effectiveness of this Shen. He's stacked Adaptive Helm with Mercury Treads to deal with the Rumble, but if he tries to go into a team fight and isn't sitting in his Spirit's Refuge to block the auto attacks, Twitch is going to kill him with 4 shots.
For sure.
0 armor whatsoever on this guy. Closest thing he's got to armor is a Dorian's shield that'll knock 5 AD off every Twitch auto attack. Not the most, but now WE might be getting themselves into a scrap. Cask not on the mark. Betty would stand united, looking to put some autos into GA, can't quite find it. Now WE looking to mount the counterattack. Equalizer comes down in the choke point. MMD in some trouble here. Cosmic Radiance has to save him.
I feel like
Wolves both walk away.
That Cosmic Radiance was far too early from Sword Art. The Equalizer had no threat to be followed up on. Condi had already expended Body Slam. And if Flash Wolves wants to win this, they need to coordinate Cosmic Radiance with Vladimir's initiation. They don't have Cosmic Radiance anymore.
Here we go, taunt down onto the Shen. Mystic still has spray and pray, and now it's time to open up. Rat-a-tat-tat! Watch them all go down. Mystic now gonna be jumped on by MMD. They both fall, but it's a 3-for-1.
Massive team fight for Team WE. I was concerned because their main engaging Condi had fell apart, but they used the Fog of War to take advantage of Flash Wolves, who got a little bit too close. They took the bait, and WE, they immediately go for the punish.
Yeah, gonna be a little bit of a slow Baron, but they got enough with Rumble, Galio, and the Gragas getting some percent health damage into that. This could be the fight that breaks the game open.
WE now getting the Baron. This is going to feel great for these guys. It's going to give them so much ability to push and control the map and further build this lead. You can see just by the current state of the turrets, they were able to break the outer ring, but they couldn't find anything else beyond that. Baron is the perfect way to fix that.
And this is the Fog of War we were talking about. Carson, he just wants to check it with his with his E, but he ends up getting caught out of position. GA with the flash taunt. Now one of the frontliners is down, and that allows Mystic to open up. He gets knocked back by Betty, making it even harder for Maple to dive onto the backline. And even though Mystic still loses his life, the damage was already done. Flash Wolves had fallen apart, and it ended in a 4-for-1 going in the favor of WE.
And we also have to remember that the Cosmic Radiance was burned by the Equalizer. Imagine that fight if Maple and Betty can dive in and have 2.5 seconds of invulnerability to kill Mystic, and then all they got to deal with is a Rumble and a bunch of tanks. So could still be different. This goal lead puts WE in a good position. Still just want to see better usage out of Sword Art's ultimate.
Forcing Maple back like that is a good sign for these guys. Going to give them the opportunity to continue pushing up, moving through the jungle. Notice how they're laying down the vision as they go as well. Damage dealt to champions in the last team fight, nearly 5,400 from Mystic's Twitch. Any two people you put together on Flash Wolves don't even equal that. GA dashing himself forward with the Justice Punch to zone away into defenders as WE breaks down the mid lane tier 2, continues the push, 4 men strong, up into the base of the Flash Wolves.
And they should continue to force this. They are stronger in the 5v5. The Ghost is down on Maple as well, so just keep walking up to turrets, push Galio forward, and dare Flash Wolves to fight you.
That was your tank, by the way, if you're Flash Wolves and walk up to that wall and he gets auto attack for 2 seconds.
He's got a Warden's Mail now, though, Flowers. He should be able to mitigate a little bit of the 4-item switch down on the end.
He's got Warden's Mail up against Infinity Edge, Runeance Hurricane, Static Shiv, and some other bits and pieces. Now, can WE actually break this base open? Time will tell, and it's going to tell right now. Cosmic Radiance comes down, but it's not doing a lot. They're not taking any damage, but the cast finds Karsa. The Equalizer brought down into the back line, zoning Betty away. Maple still looking, but not finding, as WE will force their way into the base, seeing if they can find any more Flash Wolf lives. The answer is yes. 3 are down, and it's a double kill for the top laner.
That's gonna do it, Flowers. Mystic would not die as Flash Wolves tried to dive, and not a coordinated play by Flash Wolves in that dive, but WE in full control, go for the Nexus.
MMD's gone, Betty's gone. Flash Wolves' chances of a win in week number 1 are gone, and WE will find their victory.
The crowd is in elation as the LPL representatives, WE, get themselves such a solid win against the Flash Wolves. Such fantastic team fighting towards the later game. Good early objective control. We talked about how around the 18 minutes is where this team really kind of swings or swims. They find that great play. They found it. Initially, it kind of looked like disaster up in the top lane. They looked like they lost the fight, but they were still getting those turrets. They were still holding onto that gold lead, and they just continued to win fight after fight against the Flash Wolves.
And this puts Team WE in a very good position in this group. It moves them to 2-1 with their only loss coming at the hands of TSM. And looking at Flash Wolves, their situation just became incredibly dire, moving to 0-3. And since this format was adopted in 2014, no 0-3 teams have advanced to the quarterfinals after the first week.
You've got to seriously be concerned if you're Flash Wolves right now. How do you fix this going into week 2? But for Team WE, what a way to end week number 1. They make a statement with this game. They end it 12,000 gold up. Even though they played very slowly early on, they weren't engaging a lot, they weren't pulling that trigger. As soon as you gave them the opportunity, they ended the game immediately. And that is the statement we're talking about.
To me, one of the big things is giving Galio away over to one of the LPL teams because they're just so good at utilizing his ultimate at just the right times. The way they use him in team fights just seems to be so impactful. And Chie, he was just having a fantastic game overall.
Yeah, and also just walking forward when they're around objectives to buy space. I don't think it was a problem of decisiveness. I thought Team W was insanely decisive this game. They just didn't actually have that many tools to make fights happen. So they were so decisive, they made it happen, they got the win.
Well, you heard our thoughts, but now to get their thoughts on the first win of the day, let's toss things back to Dash and the analysts.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. RNG perhaps not the only hope for the LPL as WE dismantles Flash Wolves there at the end of the game with a couple solid team fights. But let's talk about how they crafted this victory, of course, indexing heavily on the Twitch as well as the Rumble for their DPS.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Yes, they won the game, but looking at this draft, I am not a fan of what Team WE put together here. I really dislike the Rumble pick. I would have preferred more of those hard engage options that the casters were talking about to start off a lot of these fights. Yes, it is a comfort pick for 957, but Azale, we were talking about this. You look at that top side of the map, that is 3 magic users. That is Rumble, Gragas, or Galio. It makes it so easy to itemize, and there was such a clear window. I see you over there. Hold on. There was such a clear window for Jarvan to just say, Rumble's going to be pushed up top. I do physical damage. You do magic damage. Let's just gank him over and over and over again.
But I actually thought this comp was straight up genius from WE in this specific
All right, I like it. Why?
Here is why, okay? Look at the Flash Wolves and the way that they have played so far. They have been playing strong early game and failed to close out late. This composition, you've got pushing lane top, you've got a pushing lane mid lane, so you nullify that early game advantage, especially with the invade onto the Raptor camp. Jarvan's path is already routed, and then you can capitalize on the mistakes that the Flash Wolves are going to make early, and you guarantee yourself a scaling Twitch that has the Janna, the Gal, it's got everything. Will this composition work against anybody else? No. But specifically against this faltering Flash Wolves, I thought it was great.
And in a sense, we saw that in our very first replay, 9 minutes in. Flash Wolves attempt a turret dive bot lane. Yes, they'll trade 1-for-1 at the end of the day, but the advantages given over to WE are massive.
One of my issues with this is how telegraphed it was. Jarvan had already gone in on the Janna, walked back, got warded out, then they try to go. This gave Galio so much time to come down. It allows them to set up for this dive, to counteract it. You know, they have time to bring their jungler over, and that's why it went so bad.
And really the story of both these compositions was dive versus anti-dive. Could Flash Wolves dive, get that Vladimir onto the backline, find the Twitch and pop him like a balloon, or would they fall victim to the Gragas, the Janna, the Galio disengage?
And we saw, of course, a couple one-team fights from the Flash Wolves. Not long after that replay there, we port to the top lane. WE perhaps overreaching a little bit, and Flash Wolves will snag some kills back.
The word that you're looking for is just straight disrespect and greed. I can 100% believe that this is exactly what WE would do.
They should have just let Ben die here, because look at the minimap. Rumble actually started this walking from bot side to top to try to assist, while the rest of WE is just fighting for their lives without mana, without damage, and they just straight up get wiped by such a discoordinated Flash Wolves. But it doesn't matter. The numbers aren't there for WE.
I mean, one of the biggest things for me about Flash Wolves in this game was they just looked like their players were on different pages and many times throughout the fight. The Taric ult's coming down as some people are disengaging and half the people are getting ready to go in. Like, this was apparent in a lot of fights, and I feel like when you are playing Taric, you have to be so coordinated on when you're using the ultimate, what the team is doing once the ultimate is down, and another example was simply this fight. You know, Betty is actually backing out, doesn't even get in the Taric ultimate to start it off, and he loses about 60% of his health before the fight even started. Otherwise, I felt like it would have gone even more in Flash Wolf's favor.
And frankly, that's the big issue with Flash Wolves right now and why they're kind of floundering in their group. It's the inconsistencies. Are we going to have that beautiful Sejuani Taric composition that we saw them pull out previously, or are we going to get, you know, missed Taric opportunities there? Tristana kind of flying in.
Triss ulting the carry away
pushing
from Vladimir.
Pushing the ADC to safety.
Multiple times.
And we saw those inconsistencies even in kind of the game-deciding team fight. 25 minutes in, Taric ultimate is down. Condi capitalizes with a big engage here. This is your Ace Predator replay.
Mystic is the guy to watch out for WE, and he's going to be doing so much damage. Well, the front line has created so much space. He gets to open up, and Betty gets deleted right away. Galio Rumble flash on him, and when the carries are down, you know WE will get to pick up the scraps.
And Betty actually ulted Mystic away from his mid laner, right? From Maple, who's a strong guy. Betty opens up. The Vladimir's right on top of him. It looks like he's going to go down very quickly, but he actually gets Tristana ulted kind of to safety, which not that they necessarily would have won the fight, but it would have been going better for them. And I think it spoke to a lot of the issues that they were having, you know, in and around Baron, having those team fights. It felt like they're not on the same page.
And really what it does here now is just apply more and more pressure to this Flash Wolves squad. As Jap mentioned, no team since the inception of this format has made it out of groups when they start 0-3. We talked a little bit about coordination from the team, but is there anything specific we can pinpoint, an individual or a specific type of style that maybe they can adapt or step up to in order to find success next week?
Flash Wolves or WE?
Flash Wolves, as they're the ones who need to be picking up wins if they have any shot.
For me, I think that they're drafting to their win conditions. You know, they got the hypercarry, they're in the meta. I still want to see more playmaking. Sword Art had a great Taric game, and he had a poor Taric game, but it wasn't Sword Art's fault. It's the team and how they're playing around that champion, and I think that's the answer for them in the Ardent Sensor meta.
All eyes on the support and Sword Art, the veteran, to get the team going in week 2. For more on that game, let's go ahead and send it over to Shox, who's ready with Team WE's mid laner.
Thank you very much, Dash. Indeed, here with Shie. And the first thing I want to ask is about how fast they won that game, or how impressive, actually. The Flash Wolves played a very, very slow game yesterday. Is the fact that you guys are naturally a very aggressive team, is that the reason that you had so much advantages coming into this match?
所以首先恭喜你们今天获得了胜利。然后，昨天闪电狼的比赛的话打得非常的慢，然后你们前期打得又非常的凶，所以这是不是你们取胜的关键呢？
因为感觉昨天打得太平稳了，然后今天我们拿出阵容又刚好适合我们打得挺凶的，所以我们转换一下风格，然后发现这风格更适合我们。
So yesterday in our games, we played very mild, and today with our team comp, it seemed like we can get a lot of advantages early on, which is a style that we really like playing.
And it worked out. You guys end the first week 2-1, a very comfortable score. However, there is that TSM team that you've not been able to beat yet. What will be the challenges going into that match next week?
所以你们目前在小组中是以2-1的一个成绩占据着第一周的结束嘛。然后呢，你们唯一没有打败的队伍是 TSM。那你们下一周觉得会在打 TSM 的时候会面对什么样的一些困难呢？
因为昨天输给 TSM， 虽然他们打得很好，但我觉得我们更多的失误导致他们能取胜的。如果我们能不犯那些很低级的失误的话，我觉得我们可以战胜 TSM。
So yesterday, our loss against TSM, I feel like they're a very strong team, of course, but I also feel like we've made a lot of mistakes. So going into second week, if we can minimize our mistakes, I think we can definitely beat them.
All right, well, you guys are doing good, and there's a lot of pressure on the Chinese teams here in Wuhan, obviously, because it's on home turf. EDG is not doing that well. Does that even more up the pressure on you guys as well to perform even better?
所以目前的话 ，EDG 的战绩不是那么好。然后呢，你觉得在我们主场的话，会不会对你们来讲更有压力，让你们表现得更出色呢？
其实我觉得 EDG 发挥的真的挺不错的，但他们总是差一点点，然后导致不能赢下比赛，很可惜。但我觉得他们第二战就下一周会发挥得更好、更精彩。
So I feel like EDG actually played pretty well, except they're always just missing that little bit to get the win off the game. But I do believe that coming into the second week, they're going to give us some more exciting game.
All right, we will see. Well, thank you very much, Shie. And well, that will be doing it for us for the first match. We'll be right back after the break with TSM versus Misfits, so don't go anywhere.